I'd like to take a few moments to tell you a bit about the Global Burden of Crop Loss, a Gates-funded initiative that I'm involved in. So the aim of this Global Burden of Crop Loss initiative is to provide rigorous evidence on the impact and causes of crop loss throughout the world, to enable us to work together collaboratively to develop a system that can help inform research, funding and policy aimed at reducing crop loss. So it's inspired from the Global Burden of Disease for Human Health, which has been run from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation in Washington over the last 25 years, and is fantastic if you want an interesting data set to go and look at. And the Global Burden of Disease gives you data on the impact of many different health problems and risk factors by country, and even in some countries by regions. And this initiative involved high quality data gathering mechanisms, analytical methods that can integrate data from different sources, and the creation of new metrics that are globally recognised. And those are the things that we're going to have to develop and bring together for the global burden of crop loss. Why do we need it? I think many of you will realise that sort of data on the scale and causes of crop loss are quite outdated and also quite sparse. And we really need to get reliable data on crop loss to improve our ability to look at emerging diseases and which ones are going to have impact, and have a higher resolution of where disease is happening. Provide informative data, accurate data for decision makers so that people can look at resource allocation and maximise the impact of investments in crop management and crop loss protection. So these are some of the questions we're trying to answer. So how many of the world's crops are lost to diseases, insects, weeds or abiotic factors? How does this vary by geography, by crop? What's the economic impact of crop loss? And also, how are these changing? And we need improved statistics and indicators to answer these questions to enable us to then address the most pressing needs. So one of the first things we've done is to look at the data landscape. So we've reviewed 80 global regional data sets and databases, things from crop detection, monitoring models, environmental and climate data, pest and disease distributions, for example, looking at who's got what data, how are they shared, how are they accessed, and this can highlight sort of bottlenecks, gaps and restrictions on data. We've conducted user interviews with stakeholders, so people that we think would be using the outputs of the global burden of crop loss, to look at how do they use data and evidence, where are the gaps, how would they want that data provided, and what it would enable them to do. We'll be doing more of these interviews as we develop further the framework further. This is the sort of initial framework that we have based on these interviews with stakeholders, and we're proposing a metric for crop burden, which is an economic metric that's incorporating the economic costs of the losses as well as the economic costs of control measures. And this, the proposed framework at the moment will take models and data of theoretical yield, incorporating sort of for each different geography and different locations, and then look at what was the sort of attainable yield and how much was actually produced, and try and attribute these yield loss to different aspects, whether biotic or abiotic. So the one thing I wanted to highlight in particular is that the week of the 29th of October, we've got a Global Burden of Crop Loss online workshop. So these are a series of relatively short workshop sessions over 4 days, which will actually introduce the global burden of crop loss and have technical discussions on how can we go about calculating this yield loss, how can we go about attributing yield loss to different causes, how can we go about calculating the economic burden of yield losses, as well as a wrap-up session at the end to report from the different breakout groups and different sessions and outline the next steps. And feedback from these workshops will be used to sort of improve the framework, plan upcoming activities, and also develop teams, working groups to progress different technical areas. As I said, it's very much a community collaborative initiative, and the details of these workshops will be online very shortly at the website here, www.croploss.org. Also, all sessions will be recorded and will be on the website afterwards, and the introduction session will be repeated during the week, and it's an opportunity for people to pose questions that we might then be able to address in the interactive sessions. So after the call to action, so this is the initial Gates funding for the first 18 months, we want to use the outputs from what we've done and the workshops in October to establish sort of technical teams to progress different areas. We're going to agree on a plan with key stakeholders, secure further funding, and then launch a pilot study to really go through, for one crop with good data availability, what can we do and what can't we do, and how do we need to change the framework based on that pilot study, and then develop and test the framework, scaling it up beyond one crop. So as I said, I really want to iterate again that it's a community effort. It's not a one group project. It's going to require input and collaboration around the world. So if you're keen on getting involved or have stakeholders that will be interested in getting involved, please get in touch with us through the Crop Loss website.